So, any announcements anyone wants to make while we're here?
Okay, 2 announcements. One, if you want to get more involved, the CNY Solidarity Coordinating Committee is looking for new members. The terms are 1 year, and you can submit your name, or even do nominations, I guess, to cnysolidarity@gmail.com by January 1st of 2024. Currently, we meet on Zoom once or twice a month, depending on a meeting schedule. And the election of the coordinating committee will occur at our annual membership meeting on January 7th in 2024 at 2 p.m. So that's the first announcement. And the second one is we'll be at the Plowshares tabling. So we need volunteers. So I have a sign-up sheet if you want to sign up for a shift. We're doing 1-hour shifts. You can sign up for an hour, 2 hours, whatever you can do. It's 2 days, so we do need volunteers. That's it.
Okay, so Christine Wood is our guest speaker today for the first part of the meeting. She's going to present on the New York State Public Campaign Finance System.
Yeah, thanks for having me all. So I think I know everyone here. I'm Christine Wood. So for my day job, I work on money and politics reform. I work for a nonprofit public citizen and lead a coalition of organizations that work to get big money out of politics. And I'm here today to talk about the New York Small Donor Financing System, because this is the first year after years and years of work to get to this point that a statewide public financing system is getting implemented. So it's available for statewide candidates running for statewide candidates and for candidates that are running for the state legislature. So it's a really exciting time. So how we got to this point, there's a huge coalition called the Fair Elections for New York Coalition. That's slide 2, link perfect. And we're a coalition of 200 plus organizations that are working for years to get to this point. We came together over a decade ago to combat the corrosive influence of big and secret money in politics. As you all know, there's a big problem due to the connection of big secret money from corporations, for example, big real estate, or other corporations, that their voices are heard more than everyday people because they donate excessive amounts of money sometimes through secret means, through secret money donations, through PACs, super PACs, and sometimes just hitting the max donation threshold, which in New York State for our statewide offices and state legislative races is actually pretty high compared to other states. So unfortunately, this has meant that those priorities of wealthy interests and of corporations have a bigger voice in Albany than everyday people. So we came together to think through a solution of that, and from that, we've been campaigning for small donor financing. So slide 3. All right, so right now we have our public financing campaign program. It's a major step forward for us for this issue. So this is based on a program that was actually running in New York, New York City, that's been wildly effective. So again, this is the first time it's going to be available for statewide candidates. We're going to dive into kind of the nitty-gritty of what this means, but in a nutshell, what it is it's a voluntary program that candidates who are running for those state offices can opt into to receive matching funds. A matching fund is if there is a donation to a campaign, the first $250 will be matched by government funds, and there's an algorithm that shows how much you'll get. But in order to qualify, you need to lower your threshold for running for office in terms of like your max donation. So the goal of this program is that candidates are spending more time with in-district constituents, raising money from grassroots donations, rather than doing call time and calling out-of-district donors, wealthy donors relying on PAC funding. And on the other flip side of that is that everyday people like us have a bigger say in our elections. Because with the matching fund, if I donate $10 to a political campaign, it gets matched by 12. So that's actually $120 in that political campaign, which is, absolutely massive in terms of having a regular person have a say in our democracy. Next slide, Elaine. So this slide is a graph. So I'll read what it says because I know it's a little bit hard to tell, but this just shows kind of where funding is currently coming from. So the gray part of that graph for folks that can see is donations from PACs, corporations, and other entities. So this is from the 2022 election. So the largest swath of donations are coming from PACs, corporations, and other entities, and that's 42% of funding for our elections come from those corporate PACs. The next largest block comes from donations of $1,000 or more, so that's 27% comes from $1,000 or more. The next one is from political parties, and that's 11%. The next one is from, and then finally, at 11%, is small donations that come from $250 or less. So that means just 11% is coming from small donations, and the rest of the chart, as you can see, is coming from large donations, with the vast majority either coming from PACs or donations over $1,000. So what that means is those are the priorities that are being heard in Albany, and that's how candidates have been kind of funding their political campaigns, and that's how they're spending their time. Next slide, Elaine. So the promise of this program, as written in law, is to make a government that's more accountable to all New Yorkers, regardless of wealth, position, to improve public confidence in the state's democratic process. But this program is only going to be successful if all of us know about it and are actually using it and are actually encouraging candidates to use it. So that's why I'm here today, to chat with you all about it. So of course, you know, this gives us a better say in terms of people that represent us. All right, so these graphs here, as you can see, this shows kind of what would have happened if in that last 2020 cycle that I just talked about, if we had small donor financing in place, which we didn't. This is the first time we're actually going to have in place for statewide. So these projections show that if we had had small donor financing held in 2022, it would have vastly changed the makeup of political donations. So we would have seen that PAC funding, the proportion, go down to 25% instead of 42%. And it would have boosted the small donor portion to 50 or less from 11% to 53%. So that means that over half, if with this program in use, our projections show that over half of candidates' coffers would be made up of these small donations that have to come from constituents that again are representing kind of everyday people rather than these corporations and the ultra wealthy. And that's just if it was held with the general program as it stands. But if we can increase the usage of small donor financing, it can get even higher than that. All right, so this is why I wanted to use the slide here, because this chart's really helpful, and we'll send it around to folks afterwards. This is how it works, because it can be a little confusing, but once you use this chart, you can have a clear understanding. The match varies per office. If it's a statewide race like governor, it just the first $250 gets matched by 6. That's it. It's pretty simple. But if you're running for state senate or state assembly, it depends on the amount of the donation. So again, $250 or less is like the magic number, but within the $250, the smaller donations get matched at a much higher rate than $100 or $250. So if it's on the smaller end, if it's the first $50, it gets matched by 12 times, which is pretty substantial. And then as it goes up, it increases to 9 to 1. So it's a pretty massive incentive to have these smaller donations. So let's say there's a $10 donation, it gets matched 12 to 1. That's going to be $120 of a match, $130 into someone's campaign account. But if it's that last portion, that last $50 that gets matched only 9 to 1, but that's obviously still incredibly dramatic. So overall can have a massive impact in terms of amplifying our donations and providing a viable path for candidates to be able to run for office, without having to rely on these max donations or corporate, super PAC funding.
Christine, is $50 the most you can give to get the matching?
You can give $250 for the match, and it doesn't need to be all at once. You can give $250 all at once if you want, and it's going to match like the first portion of that donation at the 12 to 1 rate, and then that last $50 at the 9 to 1 rate. Or if you wanted, you could donate $100 the first time and $150 the second time. So it's just 250 per person can be matched.
So if you give 250, what is the match?
If you give 250, the match would be, well, I'm terrible at math on the spot, but it would, the first portion of that donation would be matched 12 to 1, and just that last 50 would be matched 9 to 1.
Okay. Thank you.
And then if you donate more than that, you still can, it just won't get matched.
Right.
So it doesn't mean I can only donate $250, it means that I can donate $250, but then it also, I can donate afterwards. And they can continue to raise funds that way as well. And I should also mention that, why it's so important that we're all thinking about this here is right now there's a current proposed change of the small donor financing program to increase the qualifying threshold, as you need to meet a certain number of small donations in your district in order to meet the match. So right now, State Senator Rachel May is in the program. Not all of our elected officials are right now, but we'll talk about that later. But State Senator Rachel May, she's in it. She needs to hit 300 donations in district or she will not have any matching funds. But if she hits 300 donations per district, she'll hit all the matching funds and she'll have a fantastic fundraising quarter. So that's also really important, is the number of donations actually matters a lot. And it's important for all of us as a community to make sure that candidates that are enrolled in this program, to help ensure that that's worth it, because we want people to use this program because it gives us more of a voice. But if we're finding that candidates aren't hitting that threshold, they might not use it anymore, and they might say, you know what, enough of this trying to raise money from constituents nonsense, I'm going to go back to calling, these corporations or calling these, kind of ultra wealthy campaign donors. So it's important this program is successful this year.
Just clarifying, so if I donate $500 to Rachel May, the first 250 gets processed through this, which means the first 10 and then the next 20, whatever, right?
That's how I think it will end up being. So that's, again, part of the state legislature passed a law that Governor Hochul will or will not sign. How it used to be, which actually is how I preferred it, was at first it was only 250 and below would qualify, but what the legislature passed this year is what you just described. Is the first 250 is matched, and then the rest is not matched. So that's how we think it's going to go. But the governor still hasn't signed the bill. So as it stands right now, just $250 and below, but it already passed the Assembly and the Senate, so we think it'll land where it's at now. Which we're advocating for changes to that. I personally hope Governor Hochul does not sign it, because I think that the 250 and below is actually helpful in incentivizing candidates to raise a further incentive. But regardless, it's powerful that it still amplifies those small dollar donations, so we should make sure the program's a success. But I think that's right now it's just 250 or below, but I think that's what the legislature just passed, is that it's just the 250, and beyond that it just won't get matched. All right, so slide, that one, yes, perfect. Okay, so these graphs here, again, are a little difficult to see, but this shows New York City. So New York City has had some form of public financing for 30 years now. The statewide program is based on small donor matching and the city council, so it's helpful. We can actually see kind of how this has played out in New York City. So on the left is a graph for city council candidates in 2016, and on the right is New York City Assembly candidates. So for this race, for this example, the city council candidates have the program and the assembly does not. And you can tell. You can tell because the proportion of donations is just way different. For the city council candidates that have the small donor program, there's 40% of their donations are 175 or less. 40%. So they're really utilizing this program and having everyday people participate. But when you look at New York City Assembly, only 7% are 175 and less. So 40 versus 7%. Because now in New York City, people are seeing it finally fruitful to be in different communities, to be literally just amongst voters, going to house parties with lower income and middle income constituents, which is good for democracy, because we know that when you have these kind of house parties that you've all gone to, you exchange ideas. You, make asks of your representatives to advocate for you for the policies that we all support and want to see. So that exposure and that incentivization of people to spend time with their constituents is really important. And next slide, on slide number 10, you can see a quote from our Attorney General, Tish James, who said that public financing is a critical tool to ensure that more people from diverse backgrounds have opportunities to hold elected offices and serve in our communities. So before she was Attorney General, I was on the council in New York City. She used public financing to help propel herself into that office. What we've seen in the past few years in New York City is really exciting. We've seen, for the first time in New York City's history, a majority of women in the city council, which has not happened before, and we've seen more diverse backgrounds in terms of people serving for city council than ever before. And the reason is because this program provides a path for just everyday people and grassroots candidates to run and to win. Whereas previously, it's pretty standard that you have to, when you say you want to run for office, the first few questions you're going to get is, are you wealthy? Are you connected to wealthy people? What money are you going to take? And we all know candidates that wanted to run for office and were told, you don't have money for this. The establishment saying, we're not going to support you. You don't have a path forward. So this program is shown in New York City, and also other programs like this across the country, because public financing isn't new, it's been around since the 70s. There's, different states across the country, and municipalities like Seattle have a form of small donor financing. And what it shows in each of these instances where they have this program is a huge increase in terms of diversity who can run for office. So that's really helpful in just making sure there's fair representation. Okay, so moving on to slide 12. Again, this is just showing the eligible candidates, as I mentioned before: governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, comptroller, and then state senate and state assembly member. And as I mentioned before, here's the list of the donations. So the first 50 is 12 to 1, the next is 9 to 1, and the last 100 is 8 to 1. So I apologize, I think I accidentally said 9 to 1. So you can see this tiered system. What's helpful is New York passed funding for a campaign finance board, which has staff and resources to help candidates support them in terms of filing for the program, making sure everyone's following their rules, projecting their fundraising numbers. So there's this entire infrastructure that's funded and built out to help candidates make this transition into this program. And again, this is the first year that this is being implemented. So on the next slide, this is kind of just an example of what this could look like. So it says that Chelsea's a candidate for state senate. Again, this is a voluntary system, so she decided to opt in. Steve, a constituent, gives $10. He feels good because Steve hasn't contributed to a state senate campaign before, because before now, $10 doesn't really mean anything. But now it actually does mean something, because he donated $10, it got matched 12 to 1. And now, in addition to his $10 donations, the match chipped in 120. So now Chelsea gave 120 to Chelsea's campaign, or 130 total. That's the original $10. So all of a sudden, Steve has a pretty good voice in our democracy. And then as I mentioned before, for those other races, it's a 6 to 1 match. So much more simple for the other candidates. All right, so I'm going to skip to slide 17. And talk a little bit more about kind of our role in this and how we can get more involved. So as mentioned, this is the first time this program is happening, so it's really, really important it goes well, because this was hard to pass. We worked I think there was a movement for 15 years that worked to pass this system. In New York, this is the most robust public financing program that's literally across the country. We have the opportunity to be a real leader here. And not every member of the Assembly and Senate and Governor were really excited about this program, because what it's actually going to do is it's going to make it easier for people to run viable campaigns for office, which can kind of scare some people that might currently have big campaign war chests or might be in charge. But we all know that it's a democratizing force and it's really powerful, and we need to make sure that our state candidates are incentivized to use the program and that it is successful, so that it doesn't give excuses to certain high-powered individuals to say, look, the public financing system, no one's using it, pointing out flaws and trying to weaken it. So we need to make sure it's successful, and then we need to keep advocating each year for funding, and to make sure that it's getting stronger and stronger as we continue to use it. So right now we have over 100 candidates that signed up to use this program, which is really exciting. as far as our local candidates, to my current knowledge, State Senator Rachel May is enrolled and already using the program. I think she's pretty close to hitting the threshold, which is exciting. Folks may know that Assemblyman Al Sturpey announced for State Senate. He signed up to the program. Those are the only 2 elected officials I know in this area that are signed up for the program. So something we can all do is encourage our other assembly members and state senate candidates to enroll into the program. Even if they're not like a sitting elected official, if they're just like running for office, they should be signing up as soon as they announce their run. We can check it in real time. So we can check to see if folks are signing up, because it's really gonna help ensure that the program's successful. It's gonna help ensure that all of us have a voice, and it's gonna help ensure that the people that represent us are listening to us rather than just kind of, you know, ultra wealthy and corporate interests.
Could you explain the negatives to not signing up?
Well, first off, I mean, if I was a campaign manager to someone, I would say you're leaving a lot of money on the table, so I don't know what you're doing. So that's A. But B, I mean, I think a negative is, again, speaking on like I think it's popular, first off. I think it's popular and that you should want to represent your constituents in that way, and that there really is a problem of the outside influence of money in politics, and we should be and that there is kind of popular support for spending more time with constituents. And you get to know your constituents better. I mean, there's some data that shows that it increases people's trust in our elections, and it increases people's trust in our elected officials who are participating in this program.
Greg, if I'm wrong, to answer your question, the negative to signing up is that the maximum you can receive is now lower.
Oh, that as well.
That's
Yeah,
the real
that as
negative.
well.
So let's say, you know, you're super wealthy. If you're running for state senate, you can have 5 of your friends give you $10,000 each, and you can raise $50,000. I want to say the maximum you can receive, correct me, is $2,500 now, if you opt into the program. So if you, for state senate. So if you opt in, the maximum you can receive is significantly lower. However, those small donations mean a lot more. But if you don't have a lot of small donation friends and you got 6 wealthy friends, I would opt into this program.
Well, and there's some people that just like for example, Senator Magnarelli this past year introduced legislation to axe the public financing program. So there's some people that just straight up don't agree with it at all, which I would, you know, encourage us to hold people accountable that attack the small donor financing program.
He already has $250,000.
Yeah.
Sure. So yeah, as far as like how we can all help out, I think participating in the program, spreading the word about the program. Again, as I mentioned earlier, like one cool thing about the program is house parties or like community events. Like there's a huge opportunity there for candidates to spend more time in communities that normally they haven't been prioritizing because they've been doing call time. So we all have a role in this by, you know, holding house parties for candidates that we're excited about, encouraging candidates to enroll in this program and spreading the word about it. And then, you know, as we see the legislature, the next legislative session and future legislative sessions, the Fair Elections Coalition is going to be watching very closely for any attempts to weaken the program and for opportunities to strengthen the program. So I'll keep y'all posted if we need phone calls or any advocacy next legislative session. If we do see any, again, opportunities to strengthen it or attach to the program, because this is a really amazing opportunity for us to change how candidates run for office here and our own voice. So we just want to make sure that it's really successful. I think you were first.
How come local elections are not included in this?
I think that, I didn't design all of it, so I don't definitely know, but I think my guess is funding. This was a big thing for us to be able to get this funded.
So in Suffolk County, they have it, but the county legislature would need to vote for it. So obviously I'm in favor of it, but I would be really shocked. Yeah.
And you need the money does need to come from somewhere, so the statewide comes from the state budget, the New York City comes from the New York City budget.
Oh, okay.
So so either the state would have to give it to everyone, or we could just try to pass it here, which would be cool, but we just have to figure out the funding. But a lot of cities do it, I mean, in most places it is a county by county approach. In New York, we just had this awesome opportunity to pass it statewide. I think you're next.
I'd just like to go back to this max thing. I don't really understand the max. Is there, if you are enrolled in the program, there's a maximum amount of donations you are able to accept, or there's a maximum amount of donations that are eligible for the program? Does it mean that if I am enrolled in the program, that I'm not gonna take big dollar money also if it's offered to me, or?
So the max is per donation. It's like there's always, you know, contribution limits for like each and every race, but for public financing candidates, it's just a lower threshold of what you can accept. In terms of it for per each donation. So you can still have as many number of donations and donors as you want, but the max per donation is lower than those who are not enrolled in the public financing program. But those that are not enrolled don't have the match. So I would say both. It's an advantage that you get the small dollar donations, but from our standpoint, we want lower contribution limits anyway, so it's helpful. From what you just pointed out, that it does reduce kind of the influence of the ultra high donations.
Is there any reason why the governor would not sign this? You said that you're not in favor of her signing it because you think the max is too low, or?
Yeah, so I'm not sure what the governor's gonna do. I expect that she'll sign it. There was a lot of good government groups that wrote her a letter that said that they don't want her to sign it. And again, that's because I would prefer that only $250 donations and below got it, because then that's really combating the influence of big donations in politics. But the Assembly and the Senate this past year, they decided, unsurprisingly, that they didn't want to just limit it to the small donations. So now all donations for small donor candidates, with what they just passed, would apply to it, but only the first 250. So if I donated $1,000 to Rachel May, for example, the first 250 would be matched. Whereas originally how it was written, that wouldn't have been matched, only to 50 and below. So there's I'm not sure what the governor's gonna do. There's kind of mixed thoughts on that. So we're kind of waiting to see what she's gonna do right now. But several organizations did ask her to not sign it. But regardless, if she signs it or doesn't sign it, this is still a really amazing opportunity. We need it to be successful. And still, even if it's not perfect, it's still a step in the right direction, and we're gonna still advocate for the changes that we want next legislative session, while also trying to get folks to use this program and making sure that the first year is a success.
But if she doesn't sign it,
Then what I just described would be it. It would be 250 and below only get the match, instead of the first 250 of any donation. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sorry for my confusion there. So this program was originally passed This program was originally passed like 5 years ago, and then it was delayed, and then all of a sudden when it was about to go into effect, the legislature decided to push for some changes that some advocates were critical of. But regardless, you know, this is the program that we have, so we're gonna make sure it's a success.
So, as an individual, I might want to send small donations to somebody who might not be a constituent, but I want that helps them qualify.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yes. So only constituents' donations get matched, but
Oh, okay.
only constituents. So if someone is not in like Rachel's district, for example, and they donate, their donation can't be matched. But if you're in district, it'll be matched. So again, like the idea there is that it's incentivizing candidates to stop, you know, going to Albany, New York City for these fancy fundraisers, and instead go to, you know, any place in Syracuse and just have a block party and just spend time with voters instead of at these, you know, at like fancy fundraisers or call time. All right, is that question?
So I know there was a lot of talk about funding in the last budget. So where did we end up in 2023's budget, and then what's the ask for 2024?
That's a good good question. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but what would,
What was the question?
oh, perfect.
What was your question?
So my question is, so in 2023, we asked for a lot of funding. They didn't fully fund the program. They fully funded the administration of the program, and then they only did so much of the actual money that they need in 2023.
Yes.
And so we still need to make sure that the legislature knows that we need more funding for this program. And so I believe it's looking at
Yes,
the
I
slide.
do.
The slide is that they're asking for 100 million in 2024. So when we have budget talks, which are happening already, we need to make sure that we're talking to our legislatures and the governor that we need more money for this program. We need it to be fully funded.
Yes, which is one of the reasons why it does need to be that we need to make sure that it's successful and folks are hitting the qualifying thresholds and it's being utilized, because unfortunately we are going to need funding for this every year. But what we can see by New York City and other places that have this is, like, it's very hard to take something away once it's already being implemented and it's successful. So I think the first few years it's going to be really important that this is well funded so that it then goes smoothly. And our hope is that once it's being widely utilized, we won't have to do these funding fights every year. But at least, you know, last year we had a big funding fight, or this year I should say, and then, you know, in the state legislature around budget season, we'll have to advocate for that, as well as, you know, like I said, opportunities to strengthen it. All right, any other questions from folks? All right, well, thank you. I know that's confusing stuff. Really appreciate your patience, and we can send these slides to folks because the visuals can be helpful. But yeah, keep your eye out for candidates that are in need of a little persuasion. You know, I mentioned the ones that are using the program, and it would be helpful if all of our candidates are using the program, so give them a call. And yeah, all of us can be a part of it. So thanks, Noel. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, Christine. We'll get some resources in the newsletter and on a website so we know what to call the governor about, what to bug your officials about, and how to follow up to support this program. Elaine, you want to take over the political news?
Okay, hi everyone. Just want to again recap a little bit of what happened on Tuesday's election. So unfortunately, once again, we saw really low turnout. Surprisingly or sadly, saving $85 million wasn't enough to get voters out to the polls, but we were up against money, and the county executive race money won. So other than the county executive and the district attorney races, there are really positive results from last Tuesday's election, and I got a lot of my information from Dustin Zarni, so shout out to Dustin. So Marty Masterful was reelected and a top vote getter in Onondaga County, so that seat does say blue. Emily Essie is in the lead for county clerk by 83 votes. And so if this lead remains, it means we would have flipped another countywide seat from red to blue. So we flipped the comptroller seat in 2019, we flipped the sheriff's seat in 2021, and now hopefully we potentially flipped the clerk seat in 2023. And then Democrats won both family court seats as far as I'm aware. I know there is still some counting going on in that race, I believe. And then we doubled the number of Democratic town supervisors from 2 to 4. So the town of Lysander and the town of Skaneateles elected Democrats for their town supervisor positions, and the town of Manlius and the town of DeWitt kept theirs. And we also flipped 2 town justice seats from red to blue in DeWitt and Manlius. So, and then the other thing is we are within 46 votes to flipping County Ledge District Seat 10 from red to blue. We won't have these results until later this week. We still might not know for a little while on the results of that, but it's 46 votes. That's going to be close. And they gerrymandered that district, so we gerrymander all of those districts. I do also want to shout out that Cayuga County Democrats, I believe they now have a Democratic majority in their county legislature, and I believe they also elected a Democrat for Auburn mayor, and they got new city councilors. So that's really exciting happening in Cayuga County. And then also we saw Democrats do well across the country with voters protecting abortion rights and Pennsylvania voters electing Democrat judges, which is really good for 2024. And so right now I just wanted to open it up for any discussion, comments, questions, highlights. What do you all see? And I know we have we don't want to say county legislature-elect Mo here, Mo Brown. I'm very close here as well. So,
whatever happened to the lawsuit, weren't Democrats in Onondaga County suing about the gerrymandered map?
Yes, the map has already been declared illegal. That's done. But there has to be, the lawyer that was hired initially, dropped the ball in many important ways, and he wound up getting disbarred. So we only picked up the next, because there's not a lot of money. Ronnie White is now representing, so he had to go backwards and do interrogatories and depositions. So the interrogatories are done, depositions will be happening the next couple of weeks. So the hope is that it will go to a judge in December, or the end of November, December, but who knows how long that will take to figure out whether it goes back to a redistricting committee in the county, which would be ridiculous, or to a, what do they call it? Special master. Yeah.
and I think the ask is for a special master.
The ask is for a special master, but it's up to the judge.
Yeah.
It should have been done then.
Yeah.
You go for a cheap lawyer, you get a cheap lawyer.
Yeah.
So what happens if they change it, then Mo could potentially not be my.
No, he will be for the 2 years. They're not gonna have a special election, I already asked about that. Because if we have new maps, it'll be in the spring, and that'll be for the next election. So everybody may have to run in a different district, right? Right.
Any other questions, comments? You're welcome to come up here to the podium. Yeah, maybe.
I just wanna say, I think everybody should pay close attention, as Mo will be, for the county executive who is now considering a mandate. He doesn't have a mandate. He spent a couple of $100,000 on ads and all those mailers that went out to over 300,000.
Every single day. Every single day I received a card from him.
We got two because my husband's name is different than mine.
Right.
So, and it went to all voters. So the amount of money that was spent is absurd, and Bill raised about $75,000. So he's got in his campaign account, I think he started out with something close to 800,000, plus he has a Mac pack. I just think he's gonna get more aggressive, and we're gonna be having to support Mo and just keep a loud voice to what's gonna happen in the next couple of years.
Another thing I want to point out about the county execs race, if you still have those cards and look, you'll see a lot of them was paid for by the New York State Republican Committee. The New York State Democratic Committee could have did something, and I'm upset with them. I get to be upset with them, but we gotta support our candidates. We need an efficient party. It's hard to go against an efficient statewide party and an efficient local Republican party when we don't have either, and that's what bothers me.
I'm on the committee, and I absolutely know that what Mo says is true.
But next time you see the car, look at them. They pay for free.
I cheered them all away.
Oh,
I did too.
I keep
I know.
I thought that, so they didn't even come from his campaign account.
Some did, but yep.
How about the TV ads? Did anybody notice that? Was that his account?
I looked at mostly his campaign.
So now he has that mandate, all that money that he wasn't gonna spend, the surplus.
Correct.
He's gonna spend on traveling to Europe.
Yeah.
And,
Direct quote is what he
That's
said.
you know, all
Boat
these,
launch.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, I don't know that we can stop it, but you can't leave it up to the 6 people, or whatever, however many are left, to do it. And there has to be voices from the community, and we can't get them out to vote, but I don't know what to do, but there has to be more people speaking out about his authoritarian tendencies.
I spent 4 days calling phone banking for Bill Kinney, and these were Democrats and unaffiliated, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday.
And I was driving Democrats to the poll who all said they were voting for Ryan McMahon. Some of
I
them
know.
who believed he was a Democrat. Why else would I get all those mailers? He's a Democrat. No, he's not.
That is a problem. I mean, you see comments on Syracuse.com saying, "Oh, the Democrats," and you're like, "No, the county's run by Republicans."
Right.
Mary and Mo, do you have other comments? We asked both, invited both of you, if you wanted to share about the direction of the county led, what we can expect, what we can do, how things might be different, how things might be the same. You wanna go up?
Yes.
Mary, go.
I'm done.
But yeah, no, I do want to thank a bunch of folks in this room. You know, you all definitely helped drive my campaign. So Mary, Miss Linda, John DeSantis, and a bunch of the outgoing legislators, as well as Chris Ryan, they're going to meet with the incoming legislators, and we're going to talk strategy. I've said it a bunch, and it's something we're going to have to grapple with, but a lot of experience is about to leave the Democratic caucus. But for what we like and experience, we're going to make up for an energy. We're going to make up for an effort. And I've always viewed, a campaign as like a 10-year project. Like, I would love to just go in, day one, start wrecking things, but it's not going to work like that. So I think the first step, or at least as I'm thinking about it, is education. I think a lot of people, especially within the city, they don't understand how much the county affects their lives. That's why Ryan McMahon's able to send those ads and pose with little black children, and they're like, oh, he's good. And they don't look into the details. So I really want to do a better job of highlighting the details. One of the first fights that I would like to take on right away, and Mary will advise me, but the live streaming of the meetings. So one of the things that's going to come up, but the speaker of the Republican caucus, so the speaker of the county legislature is leaving. So now there's a power vacuum at the top, and the Republicans want that speakership. And if they're going to talk to us about anything, I think we should be clear on what we want. And I think we need those meetings to look like the city council meetings. I don't even think that's a hard ask. The company is local. Like, we can literally just have them walk from City Hall to the county building and, outfit the building for that. But I think a lot of education needs to happen in these next 2 years. Both of us as legislators, but also of the community. And that's what I'm looking forward to doing. So I'm hoping you all invite me back a bunch. I'll be giving updates as often as I have them, but I'm actually going to leave this meeting pretty soon to go to our Comstock neighbors. And I'm going to be meeting with groups, all over the city, explaining what goes on at the county, because that's how they're winning. That's how they're beating us. But yeah, I can answer any questions, and I'm sure Mary can chime in with the outgoing perspective, but I can't wait.
The thing that Mary did that was so outstanding was that she constantly posted on Facebook exactly what was going on, the truth of the matter, pointed out the lies and so on. And that's what we're going to depend on you to do.
So that and then more, actually. I don't know if you all paid attention to like the digital ads and stuff my campaign put out, but I'm actually keeping, so he's a digital consultant now, and I'm telling him to use that title, but he's one of my students at OCC. He graduated, and he's just really good with video and technology, and my campaign's fundraising was effective enough that I can continue doing that.
Yay.
So I'm going to honestly do what Mary did, but I want to do it in video form. And yeah, I want to start with the live stream. I have to talk about it, and I want to show videos from the legislature and compare it to the city of Syracuse. And you can see that, the city of Syracuse has half the budget of the county, I think, and they can afford it, maybe not even half. Yeah, probably much less. But if the city of Syracuse can afford to do that, the county definitely can too.
Manlius does it.
Manlius does it, yeah.
Manlius does it.
Like,
and we have complained about this. There have been people calling the legislature and they won't do anything.
yes.
So there needs to be more calls because it's ridiculous. We can't hear anything. And half of it, not half of it, a portion of it is, people are, the legislators still aren't used to doing this. So they don't use their mics, or they have their mic here and turn and talk to somebody else who can't hear anybody. There needs to be a lot of work on that.
Yes.
The other thing that I think, and I've talked to Mo about this, and I think this is John, our legislative aide and myself have been talking about this since the summer. I got on there, I had no clue what I was doing, and there's no educational kind of thing. One of the things that I've now learned is we're going to be talking about the new legislators, starting from right in the beginning, to talk about the budget.
Yes.
And get engaged with other not-for-profits because we never do anything, we never get anything from that. And they still probably won't, but I want them to vote against it.
Yes.
And that's, there have been some people discouraging me initially. Why bother, why go through all the trouble, they're gonna vote it down. I want people to see what they vote down. And I think that we'll have a lot more of that with the new, younger, more energized, not do everything the way we've always done for the last 12, 15 years. I'm excited, I'm very excited about the new energy that's in the legislature. And the people who are retired are still around. So there's a telephone that people can use.
And we will. As good as I will, I can guarantee that. Any other questions?
I'm not clear on what the makeup of the new legislature is. Kerry Wood's race in Manlius is up in the air, but if she wins, are the Democrats up one from where they were, or will it change?
So that would get us to 7. That would get us from 6 to 7 to their 10. So right now it's 6 to 11 if the results hold. I actually do think Kerry has a good shot. Since COVID, absentees have been swinging our way heavily. Like, I don't know if you guys remember where Mannion started before he won by 10, but he was down. And then those absentees came in and things changed. But right now, if the results that are, it would be 6-11, and there would be no changes actually, literally none. Yeah.
Chris Ryan has declared he's gonna be seeking John Mannion's seat.
Yes.
He's looking right now for his designation, which means that if he wins, Ryan McMahon will appoint a Republican, unless he has a stroke or something, and forget it. But, yeah, by charter, he does.
Oh.
That's why they always bring down somebody after 1 year.
Yeah.
Give them a job, and then they get somebody who can run as the next time they run as an incumbent, same as Joni did for Ryan.
I didn't know if they had to keep the same, because the voters, did a Democrat, it doesn't matter.
That's how Ryan got it. That's how Ryan got it.
That's right, exactly. No, they can't, but, I talked to Chris about this, too, that that district is heavily Democrat. So, it'll be 1 year, but our new legislators will be, pretty much Charles Garland and the new kids on the block.
Can't wait. Another thing to pay attention to as far as the county, but also town races, is if Governor Hochul signs, so there's a bill at the state, I'm sure some of you have heard about it, but it'll move the county elections to even years. If that happens, things drastically change
100%.
that day. That day she signs the bill, things change because all of the Republicans there will know that they're gonna have to convince a lot of Democrats to vote for them. And honestly, I plan on using that leverage to get things done. But if that bill gets signed, I want to say 2022, we won 11 of the districts. I want to say like the Democrat outperformed the Republican. Granted, it was like Mannion versus his opponent, or Rachel versus her opponent. But we won District 2 in Clay, we won District 5 in Salina, we won the Manlius seat comfortably. Sunny's seat, the seat that Sunny Ashley was running for some reason, we got like 30%, but that district has parts to do it. But those are 4 seats that would flip just off of enrollment. And yeah, that would drastically change things over there.
So if that gets passed and the elections get aligned, will the people who were just elected only have a 1-year term, or will they get a 3-year term?
So
and have it be?
My understanding is a 3-year term, annoyingly. I don't think there's gonna be specials. It would get signed now, and they would go into like the elections for, like my re-election would be in 2026. That's my read of it, instead of 2025, which does suck, but they're gonna know it's coming because 2026 is going to be, midterm year. We're gonna have hopefully, Democratic Congress member seeking re-election, and yeah, we should get those seats. I'll go behind you, sorry, and then Missy, and then here, sorry.
Mo, can you give us any insight on the odds of stopping the $85 million prison for fish?
So it's not to say that it's a done deal, but that $85 million is his to do what he wants, and he's made it clear he wants prison for fish. So one thing that I'm gonna be very loud about, he's big on prison for fish. That's his like shining accomplishment. However, and I said this on the trail, and I do believe this, I think that number is too low. I think at some point, there's gonna be a vote on the legislature for new money for the project. And you all will know of that moment because I will not shut up about it. I will be all over the place in that moment, and not only will I not vote for any, like I will never vote for that, but I'm gonna make sure anyone who does vote for it, feel it. And I won't go into any more details. But I'll go Missy and it's you.
Do we think she's gonna sign that?
Yes.
We do think she's.
The even years ones?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a good
I've spoken to the people that I know that work in Albany, and they say yes. They says she was waiting for the election to pass because she didn't want it to affect this year's elections negatively.
Because there's a heavy Republican lobby to get it or not.
Heavy Republican lobby.
Yes.
Yeah, this is true. If you are able to get in touch with the governor in her office, urge her to sign that bill. That bill would do so much for local governments around the state. Honestly, we would have every county legislature outside of like Chemung and like, North Country legislatures. We would probably get them all just off of enrollment. And we have candidates in those places now. And
So we will keep that reminder in the newsletter.
Yes.
Make those calls.
Yep. So go here and it's you, sir.
So comment, I think it'd be great if there was the local elections were at the same time as the state elections. Whether or not it is something that I missed this year and I've missed in the 16 years I've been in New York, is any kind of a coordinated campaign at the for local elections. So I think it was perhaps in mailing us. I live in DeWitt. Just literally a vacuum of information about who our local representatives, our council members are, et cetera. So that did exist in the 2022 statewide elections. There was an effective coordinated campaign at the county level. Did not exist, as far as I could see, with local elections, and really need something like that. So that next door neighbors and relatives and so forth, who's going to be on the ballot, and what do they stand for, just no information.
Wholly agree, and this is something we need to lean on. So that effort in Manlius was coordinated by the Manlius Democratic Party. That statewide, that was coordinated by the statewide party. Our county party needs to do a better job of that. And I'm gonna be honestly, I'm probably gonna be more critical of the Democrats in this county than the Republicans because we have to fight them too. And just, if you look at Albany, if you look at Erie, if you look at, Monroe County, most of the counties with Democratic enrollment like ours, like there are 20,000 more Democrats in this county. Like it's a big difference. But in Monroe County, they have the mayor's office, they have the county exec's office, they have Congress. If you look in Erie, mayors, county exec, Congress. Albany, mayor, county exec, Congress. We have none of them. That's a problem. And you gotta point the finger somewhere, and I take my part of it, but OCDC, and I'm trying to help be a part of the solution. I'll shout out Alex Marion, running for auditor. He did a really good job of coordinating, so he's actually taking upon that effort. But I don't know if I want to be the lead on that, just because the party has done some harm to me in the past, but I'll definitely be a part of it. I'm gonna go here, and then to you, Mary.
So, I don't quite get it. Even here at elections, more people vote for local candidates, but why don't they vote proportionally, Republican and Democrat? Why do we get more?
So on even years, turnout tends to be higher. So the real answer, in my opinion, is just more money gets spent. So if you look at how much money Dana Balcher spent in 2018 and compare it to how much or even 2020, or even how much Francis Cannell spent last year in comparison to how much Bill Kenny spent this year, a lot of turnout is driven by the top of the ticket. And the top of the ticket this year was pretty much just Ryan McMahon. I don't think, did anybody else see any other TV ad for any other candidate? Yeah, it was like only him. Whereas in an even year, you'll get the Joe Biden, you'll get, Mannion or Sarah for Senate or for Congress or whoever, Clemmy Harris for Congress. But on those even years, when more money is spent, you're just able to reach more voters. So some voters you're only going to reach by mail. Some voters you're only going to reach online. Some voters you're only going to reach on television. Some voters you're only gonna reach in the newspaper, et cetera, et cetera. If you don't have the money, some folks you're only gonna reach at CNY Solidarity meetings. But if you are able to reach all of those voters, you really can't. And on the even years, we always have either a governor's race or a presidential race, just spending millions of dollars and just boosting turnout.
I was just gonna say, in response to your question, I completely agree. The committees, Manlius has an active, relatively young committee, and they really work at getting that out. I'm on the DeWitt Democratic Committee, and I was shocked to see the number of people that are on the committee, and when you go to the meetings, there's anywhere from 10 to 20 people there. Whereas there's closer to 50 people on the committee. They don't do anything, except they're the ones that get to vote on who's gonna be designated. So, but OCDC should be enforcing the rules, which are that you show up for meetings, and you're supposed to get 15 to 20 signatures for the designated candidate. Hardly anybody does that. I got, my first time I was on the committee, I got my 20, I said, I'll take another sheet. And they said, you don't have to. So there's this sense of, you do your duty and you go home and have some cigarettes.
Also, one thing that I do want to point out, and this is more just a shout out to what Manlius did, but in Cayuga County, I want to say in 2013, Ian Phillips got back. He worked on the Obama campaign, good friend of mine. But in Cayuga County, he went against the committee in 2013, won, and then they immediately made him chair. They immediately made him chair, and now 10 years later, they have the majority in a Trump plus 20 county. So in 2017, when a lot of us came back here, as far as Bernie, I'm talking to myself, I'm talking Perna Deere, I'm talking John Deere, Zach Zeliff, we were met with hostility. In Manlius, they were not. I'll shout out Nancy Durkin. Nancy Durkin basically said Perna, John, Mark Matt, Cheryl Matt, and she was willing to give up power for the sake of the betterment of the community. And I think Manlius is the model town. You guys have all of the town board seats, you have all the judgeships, you have supervisor. And if you look in Clay, Christine can tell that story, but I'll tell my story about the city. I was pushed out of the committee. I was. That's just something that happened. And it was because I supported, I supported Dana both times. I supported, Rachel over Valesky. And I stand by that. And, I was still willing to work with the party, but I just thought Rachel was better. But they pushed us out. And because they pushed us out, we have nothing.
And I'm on the city Democratic Committee, and in my ward, I have met them once. In September of 2022, when they voted me on. And it's like, I send not even from the chair, my ward chair. I'm not gonna bitch too much. But we don't do anything.
That organization matters.
We need to get out and do things with people.
Yes.
In our constituency.
That organization
And
matters.
we don't do anything.
I've been on there since, 2016?
Yeah.
We had one meeting.
It's
And I
like whole
begged them,
wards.
I said, I'll do it.
Yeah, I
And he
mean,
said,
I'll do
they
it.
push you right out the door. You're not welcome here. You're not welcome.
No, time, please, sorry. Thank you all. I am going to be running right after this, but I'll be, around. And I'm not hiding. All my contact information is still the same. Please reach out to me if you have any concerns, anything that, I think I'm not paying attention to. Don't be like, I'm going to be here. I'm going to be leaning on you all heavily to be, the eyes and the ears. And I'm looking forward to working with you all and anyone else who's willing to make this county a better place. Thank you.
Before we close this segment, Mary, do you have any last comments?
No, I've done all.
I have one thing. Sorry. Thank you for the local election thing, because I totally have that. We have a letter, you can just click a link on our newsletter. You can send a letter right to Hochul saying, sign this bill. So that'll be in Tuesday's newsletter again. And then too, I want to make sure that everyone does know that we have to rest up and do it all over again next year. And I'm not talking about November 2024 yet. I want to make sure everyone's aware that in March of 2024, if you live in a village you have elections. And those, if you think county elections turnout is really low, take a look at villages. So if you live in a village and want to run for office or know someone who wants to, contact me. I'm trying to give them what they need or find it for them. But I do want to make sure we pay attention to those village elections in March.